Yours.
Yeah, first lady award.
Oh.
We'll talk
Good
about that.
afternoon, everyone. Hi, I'm Priyanka Gill. I'm a venture partner at Kalaari Capital, and I have the distinct pleasure of being live here today with my very, very dear friend Radhika Ghai. She has a very long introduction, but I'm going to try and say whatever I know of her. I think that might be better. She is the woman who has raised $260.5 million dollars over the course of her storied career. She was the first woman to take a company unicorn. And I remember when I was this young, hungry founder, she was the one that I would look up to because if she could do it, so could I. So I don't know whether Radhika ever said thank you to you for that, but you were this inspiration to this generation of female founders because you were there before us. Now, Radhika is on to her. She's also called the first lady by the president of India because she was the first woman to take her company unicorn, which I just found out as we were prepping for this call. So, yeah, you learn something new about friends every day. Radhika is now on her second journey. She is the founder of Kind Life, and Kind Life was invested in by CXXO. It was one of our first investments, so I'm super proud of that as well. And as of yesterday, day before, Kind Life just announced its Series A fundraise of $8 million, which is extremely impressive. And so we will be talking about all this and more. It's going to be a really fun live, and I hope all of you who are joining us enjoy it as much as I'm sure that Radhika and I are going to enjoy this conversation as well. Hi, Radhika. How are you doing?
Hello, PG. Thank you so much for having me here. Though I feel that this seems to be one of those conversations that we have on your couch. क्या चल रहा है, कैसे चल रहा है, how do we do this, how do we not do this? So I think just kind of building on to what PG said, PG and I have known each other for many, many years, and like a lot of other very accomplished female founder friends that I have. The conversations have ranged from पैसे कैसे raise करें, how do we raise enough capital, what do we do with the business, how are we going to get more and more consumers in, how do we manage our investors, I'm saying that though PG is on the other side of the table now, also children, right? We were just talking about high school for both of our kids, and all of these are conversations that you can have with other people in your life as well, but sharing it and brainstorming with someone who's in the same boat is always a completely different experience. And thank you, PG, for being there for me and being there for so many of us.
And vice versa. I think it takes a tribe of amazing women to be by your side whenever you're trying to do something that's different. And entrepreneurship definitely is one of those. But it's like riding the dragon, right? Once you like it, that's pretty much what you want to do. So at some point, we're
Yeah.
going to come to, and I've asked this to you personally as well, why again? But I think now is the time when you've given me the proper answer. But anyway, so let's start at the beginning, Radhika. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey in your own words, and especially now that you're reflecting back upon it?
So, I think of myself as an accidental entrepreneur, PG, always, right? I kind of new entrepreneurs in and around my life, but I never thought I'll be one of them. I wanted to work always with the best in breed company. I did a short stint with Linters in Delhi, then another short stint with Goldman Sachs in New York, then a longer stint with Nordstrom up in Seattle. And all the while thinking that, my career path is going to be that in corporate, and I'm going to continue to build that out. My first stint with entrepreneurship actually was immediately when I got married. I got married really, really young, and I moved to Chandigarh, and there was no quote unquote corporate there at that time where I could work. So I started this ad agency called Abhivyakti. And I think that was my first skirmish with doing something of my own. It was tough, but the toughest part was always the sales part, going and telling someone that, yes, we can do this for you, etc., etc. And the second one was when I was pregnant with Arjit, who's my second baby. And, I just moved from Seattle back to San Francisco. My husband had moved there for a different job, and I started writing this blog on fashion called Fashion Clues. Think of it as literally like a Bollywood gossip fashion column. And suddenly we were getting picked up by Malayalam Manorama, by MSN, by AOL. They were all syndicating our content. And that was also the first time that a very well known VC reached out to me and they asked me, whether I want to do something with Fashion Clues and take it to the next level. I was caught a little unawares because I was just writing and just pasting pictures and working. I think I was, if for those of you who are in touch with the Bollywood culture, if you know Viral Bhayani, I was Viral's first paying customer. So till date, we talk, and he's like, "You're my first paying customer." I said, "Yes, I know that." So, and I would send the money from US, and very, very, I would say, much, much earlier precursor to what
So what
corporate
year was
assistance.
this?
This was 2008, 2009.
See, I didn't know this, by the way. I'm just discovering we've never spoken about this, and it's
Yeah.
really weird how journeys mirror. So, yeah.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I would say ShopClues kind of came out of Fashion Clues in a way. The team kind of got together. We said, okay, we want to do something larger. Everybody individually had aspirations and ambitions, and
Did you take
and
money from
we
the
all
investor
got
or
together.
no?
No, no, that just transformed into ShopClues, no?
Okay. So
And that
that
was
was
it.
Shop
So we moved
Clues,
to India
and
in
this was
2011.
2008, you said, right? Sorry, this is 2008?
Started in 2008, wrote for 2 years till 2010. And
Hmm.
2010 is when we all started working on the idea of ShopClues. My husband at that time was one of those people who was always an aspiring, Sandeep, always an aspiring entrepreneur. I remember he would literally stand in front of the mirror and practice how to be an entrepreneur, how to give a pitch. And I'd be like, okay, I don't know what's going on here. But I would say some of that ambition kind of rubbed off as well. Moved back to India, started building ShopClues, and the ShopClues journey has been very public, and it has been one of those journeys where both personal and professional lives intertwined in many, many ways. I'm very, very proud of what we built out at ShopClues. Till date, there are large investors I meet, and they talk about going into pitches with other very large, now very, very large e-commerce firms, and they'll send me a message right from that room that their pitch is exactly like ShopClues, and I feel that that was a great opportunity. But building and kind of the roller coaster, I would say, is par for the course. Things happen. The this always makes me really emotional, but I feel that the character, the ambition, the aspiration comes out from you will fall. When you fall, how do you get up and do it again?
Absolutely, Radhika.
I
And of
think
course, you are kind of condensing what was an incredible journey and an incredible experience. And I think if anyone who's had the pleasure of knowing Radhika personally, I think you guys should sit down and really try and get the details from her. They are quite staggering. But then, like in all your wisdom, you decided to start up again. And I still remember that conversation we had at 360 in the Oberoi in Delhi, where you were telling me, I'm doing this. And I was like, please don't. And yeah,
I
what made
know.
you go at it a second time round?
I right now I want to give you really good answers like mental strength, grit, and all of those words. But ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है, PG. I think that it is an incomplete story, and I'm here to complete it. That
I
is
think that's
it.
a perfect
I am,
answer. And
you know, as
we're
a,
so
I'm a
proud of
builder
you
at heart.
doing it again.
That's all I know. That's all I know, and that's all I want to do.
You know, friends are there to be the contrary people in your life because someone has to show you the other side. And I can promise you, I did my best that day just to make sure you understand why are you getting into this again. And despite everything that happened after ShopClues, you are still one of the leading entrepreneurs in the country. You could have done anything you wanted. but then you decided to build this beautiful platform called kindlife. So tell us a little bit about why kindlife, how that came about, and how has it been the second time round.
You're absolutely right. I had a couple of options. I was talking to a couple of VC firms as well on what is, next steps. Do you want to kind of do something? And there's one more thing I want to point out. I was 47 at that time when I started it, 46, 47. And most of the conversations would be that, at this stage of your life, and I think that was a bit of a fuck off moment, that at this stage of my life I can still build. And that was kind of equally important for me. But I would say that I'll go back to the conversation that you were referring to as well, where we talked about e-commerce content. I thought e-commerce was incredibly tough, and PG gave me this absolutely different view of how content was possibly the toughest thing to do. And I realized that everything that we've done in the past seems so difficult because we've already done it. We know what the ups and downs are. And that kind of helped me refine our business model even further. So Kind Life actually came is a post-COVID, end of COVID baby. And it came from the fact that during COVID, everybody had a bottle of Giloy in their fridge.
Mm.
And Giloy juice, it was an Ayurvedic juice. And I had no idea what it was before COVID. And I don't think most people, I would say 99% of the people did not know what it was. And the story was that self care had come front and center in such a massive, aggressive way. People were stuck at home, they were working out, they were eating healthy, they were cooking themselves, best of food was available. All the, Suchali in Gurgaon making absolutely non-adulterated sourdough bread was suddenly available coming home for you.
Mm.
um, Salad pattas were coming. My cook was so excited because she would have all these new ingredients to try with, to work with. And I kept thinking that self-care, इससे पहले self-care was never very important for us. As a
100%.
culture, we've not been very individualistic. We've been more about
Yeah.
the family. My first job, my first salary, it was all about what are the gifts that I can buy for my parents and what can I give them. My oldest son is working with Apple TV right now. His first salary is like, what can I buy for myself? And there is nothing wrong with either one of the two. I think the most important thing is that individualism and the
Mm.
fact that self care is important had come to the forefront for us. And that's really the genesis of Kind Life. Excuse me. That's really the genesis of Kind Life, that how do we focus on building a platform for self care in the body, on the body, and around the body. And that's how we start.
Absolutely right. But it's not that they were e-commerce by the time Kind Life started. They were quite mature e-commerce platforms, and also platforms focusing especially on beauty. I think Nykaa
Yes.
had just IPO'd, or they would
Yes.
IPO a bit later, right?
Yeah. Just
And
about to getting ready to IPO at that
yeah,
point.
yeah, it was just about then. So that tipping point was there. And then, of course, now we've had folks like Tira come in. So and then, of course, you had the beauty platforms that were there with the Flipkarts and the Mintras of the world, right? So it wasn't that beauty e-commerce was not a known entity, and folks had already acquired masses of customers already onto their platforms. But then when you come to play the platform game which you entered, so two things, right? One is, how do you differentiate the Kind Life offering from all the Hazar beauty offerings that may or may not be there? And the second thing is, how do you look at customer acquisition? Because, of course, other folks had burnt considerable amounts of money to acquire the customers, right?
Yes.
And then when you're fighting in a mature market without that war chest and you're starting out again, so those two questions become extremely important. So, how did you think about that at the beginning? And then over the course of these few years, how has it changed and how are you looking at right now?
Yeah. So I will put one thing forward, PG. One of my learnings after being an entrepreneur for so long is that a business always evolves. You start off with a thought process, with a
Yeah.
concept, and then you learn a lot more as you build out. And then the business evolves. And that was a very similar story for us as well. Now, this is not the word pivot, though. This is evolution of a business. And
Yes.
if you look at any super successful business, you will realize that they've all evolved. Let's look at Amazon, right? Amazon started off as a bookstore, and now
Mm.
majority of their revenue, or at least a very significant part of their revenue, comes from AWS.
Mm-hmm.
That's the evolution of a business. Now, for us, we started off thinking that we are going to bring together clean beauty, better for you, ingredient first approach, which I continue to hold very, very true by, right? This is also the first time 70% of Gen Z consumers read the ingredient list.
Mm-hmm.
They know what squalene is. They know कि vitamin C 20 होना चाहिए, 25% होना चाहिए. You have a young one at home, and I can assure you she knows more about her active ingredients than you and I ever did at that age. And
Even today, she knows more than I know even today, right? So
even
yeah,
today. Okay, there
100%.
you go. Yeah, there you go. And we kind of leverage on that we will give an ingredient first approach to the consumer, where they'll be able to come onto the site, look at the clean score for every ingredient. We've built out actually a very amazing tool there. So each of the product has a clean score. You can click onto any of the ingredients, figure out what is the best, what is a good ingredient, what is not. We leverage the environmental working group database to be able to pull out a safety rating for each of the ingredients as well. That was the genesis, that was the thought process, that we make it easier for consumers to make a
Mm.
decision on what is good for them, what is not good for them. The three large categories we wanted to play in was in the body, which is nutrition, healthy food, etc. On the body, which is beauty, personal care, and around the body, which would be mom and baby, pet care, and a lot of tertiary categories, right? And as we continued to build out, we realized that there was one of the larger categories that we started playing with was Korean beauty. And we were
Mm.
early movers in Korean beauty. And quickly realized that there was a huge opportunity in that. We would buy our inventory through, or we would source the inventory through these third party distributors, and we would run out of it in 4 days. So first ko lot aaya, by fourth we were out of stock.
Mm.
And I realized that that was one thing that was holding us back in a very, very immense manner.
Mm.
And as we continued to build, we realized that also that consumers are, while they are very interested in looking at what is a better product for them, um, in Indian consumer set still continues to be a little bit more focused on the value aspect than just the better for you. Better for
Mm.
you was a great differentiator, but I won't say that it was the best business model for us. And as we discovered that Korean beauty, Japanese beauty, indie brands from France, these were all in huge demand. Now, what has changed from the first time when we built the businesses out, right? First time when we built the businesses out, there was a very distinct demand in a little city like Ottawa, distinct demand in Delhi, distinct demand in Mumbai.
Mm.
Right now, over the last 5 to 6 years, consumers sitting in Mumbai, Ottawa, Delhi, New York, Paris are consuming the same content, whether on Instagram or TikTok.
Mm.
They all know that Twitter is a super viral Korean foundation that has 86 color combinations possible. There was that this kind of transparency didn't exist. And we
Yeah.
saw the growth happen. We started working with Korean brands directly, and we realized that we wanted to get deeper into that.
Mm.
So we launched a new line of business called Kindbox, which is a B2B SaaS business. So basically, we get brands into the country, and this business model has been successfully executed by very large players in the country previously. Whether that's
Mm-hmm.
Jubilant Foods, whether that's Devyani, they've done that with KFC, they've done that
Yes.
with Pizza Hut, etc. And I feel that the same thing can be done in beauty as well.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, for me, Kind Life continues to be a very strong B2C platform where younger consumers, Gen Z consumers, can come on and look for the best in breed products that they've just been hearing about on
Hmm.
Instagram, TikTok viral products, and they are available on Kind Life. And through Kindbox, we become distribution partners to the horizontal players, to the quick
Hmm.
commerce players, etc., etc. So that has been
Interesting.
the basis for
So
us.
evolution and not a pivot, I think that is for sure, right? Because you've held
Not
the
at all.
ethos of kind life all the way through these
Yes,
years. But then, Radhika, before we switch gears, I'd love to kind of understand, and also for the benefit of the folks who are listening in, customer acquisition is a big one, right? You can do everything right. You can kind of build your
yeah,
distribution pipelines. I know you and Mansad, you guys work extremely hard on the brand, right? So you guys have all the building blocks which are kind of stacked accurately and rightly in place. But then, how do you guys look at customer acquisition? Because of course, without that, then all of this is kind of making a lot of noise, but in a very small space.
absolutely, absolutely. And I would also say that that's the toughest part about building out an e-commerce play, right? That really is, and you know that better than nearly anyone else there is. So. The way I talk to my team and the way I talk to myself about customer acquisition is that there are two levels to that. One is discovery of the platform, and the other one is discovery on the platform.
Mm.
Now, discovery of the platform can happen in multiple ways. I can go and advertise on Instagram, I can go advertise on Facebook, I can go advertise on, do an ATL where more and more people hear about me, or I can go work with influencers. And I won't say we have any significant superpower. We've done all of this, a little bit of all of this. But what really worked for us, PG, was we built out this program called Kind Champions, where we work with over 5,000 micro nano influencers. And these influencers, we built out a very strong technology for them, wherein they
Mhm.
can build out their own stores and share it with their consumer set. And their consumer set doesn't need to just be on Instagram or on YouTube. It can be on WhatsApp, it can be in real life, all of those elements, right? And that has worked well for us, and we will be going forward, as with the capital that we've raised, we'll be building this channel out further as well. You'll still see us advertise on Facebook, you'll still see us advertise on YouTube, but our biggest strength and our
Mhm.
biggest differentiating factor will continue to be our Kind Champion program.
Awesome.
Now,
And
I said discovery of two, right? So let me take 2 minutes and also talk about discovery on the platform, where I'm very excited because we've built out this AI tool called Kiki.ai, and please go and check it out. This tool lets you create your own routine. It lets you create discover products based on your skin type. It lets you also figure out that what do you really need. So I can go in and say that I am a 40 something woman looking for a vegetarian, looking to increase my protein intake. What suggestions do you have? It will give me what kind of diet I should be following and what are the
mm,
protein supplements that are available on the site. And I can also say that I'm looking for collagen not just for my skin but also for my knees, for my elbows, all of that aspect. It'll give me the right option for that. So we've made discovery on the platform very much easier. Please,
and when you say platform, you mean your website, right?
kindlife.in, our app, and
Let's give a shout
shameless
out to
plug.
the app as well then.
Yes, shameless plug, absolutely. Please
I
download
think what we should do
kindlife.in and
is
check out
we should
Kiki.
do an Insta live where we actually just kind of have chai and discover the platforms. I think we should try and
Mm.
plan that. That would be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've been a little bit under the radar as we've been building out, but we've built out some amazing tools. These are tools that are not available on any of the other platforms, any of the other beauty platforms in the country, and it gives you in fact, on each product, you can go in and ask Kiki. Kiki is our little bird logo and also our AI tool. You can ask Kiki, is this product good for my skin type? And Kiki already knows your skin type if you're logged in.
Hmm.
So it makes it a lot easier, interactive, to be able to figure out what are the right products for you.
And also, it's a natural way that we are now interacting with technology now, right? So I think
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
definitely the way forward. So the CXXO Masterclass is titled "Women Building E-commerce Platforms," right?
Right.
And the unsaid part of the title is, how the hell do you raise funds to build an e-commerce platform? As I said when we began the conversation, you're definitely one of the most prolific female fundraisers that we know who are entrepreneurs, right? $260.5 million is no sneeze over the course of all these years. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your fundraising journey, and then perhaps then zero in on how the current round also came about. Like, how do you contrast it? Because you've been through like this roller coaster with ShopClues, right, where the numbers and the metrics were so different, and then suddenly you're kind of plonked into Kind Life. In my head, I was almost likening it with like kind of having a bazooka kill a fly, right? Like, given the breadth of your experience. So, how has your fundraising experience changed, and what was it to start with?
And since we're doing this for CXXO, I'll add the gender element into that a little bit as well. So I would say that when we started raising for ShopClues, I think over the entire journey of ShopClues, I must have pitched to, I want to say, easily 900,000 people, sets of VCs, PE
Hmm.
funds, etc., etc. I don't think there's anybody we've not pitched to. It's done the round and across countries, across continents, across the entire world, literally.
Hmm.
And there must have been about 4 or 5 women in the entire set. And
Wow.
that's how rare finding women in the VC ecosystem was. I think it's a
Wow.
little bit better now, but not significantly enough. I think
Hmm.
there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in that. And I'm talking about the decision makers. I think that's also really important. The partners have to be women who understand what we are building,
Hmm.
etc., etc. Um, Also, India was a very fresh story. I'm using the word fresh, not always positively. It was a fresh
Hmm.
story. No victories were declared. No failures were declared. It was an unknown, uncharted territory.
Hmm.
Um, our most of our pitches started with, we are 6 years behind China. We are 8 years behind China, and we will
China
become
per
what?
capita is this much today. We are here. At some point, we'll catch up.
All of us have done the work around that, right? Exactly the same story. But I think at some point that changed. We became the fifth unicorn in the country in 2015,
Hmm.
and it was super interesting how the journey played out, because at ShopClues, what we were trying to do was bring supply and demand together to the same platform. India bought in smaller bazaars, the
Hmm.
sector shops that we have, mom and pop shops, etc. And India lived in tier 2, tier 3 cities. And ShopClues was built for both of these. And our thought process was that if we build out a platform where we bring both of the supply and demand together, magic will happen. Now, theoretically, that makes sense. But it was also a time when people would switch off their data because data was so
So
expensive.
expensive. It's free
So,
geo.
yeah. And I think Geo changed it completely for
Hmm.
us. So at peak, we had about 750,000 MSMEs on the platform, and on our MAUs were about 35 million, and I'm talking 2016,
Wow.
2017, which is when it was just taking off. So building that out, showing those numbers, and continuing to focus on how we are going to grow was part of what the ShopClues story was. Now, fast forward to me raising funds for Kind Life. Um, Pretty much one of the first investors I spoke to was Vani. My story at ShopClues also started with Vani. By the way, the first pitch we'd done at ShopClues was also to Vani, where she tore it up and kind of threw it out and said, "Ye nahi chalega." Second time around, she said, "I'm betting on you," and I'm very very grateful to her for that, because she's also one of those investors, and nearly all investors do, who understand that the
Hmm.
business will evolve.
Especially
What
because we are an early stage investor, so all we have is the
yeah,
person that we're betting on. So yeah.
yeah. And the business model. the business model will evolve. Hello?
Yeah, we here.
I'm sorry, I've lost you guys. Just give me one minute.
No, no, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see you again. So the business model will evolve, and it can. I'm sorry, I lost my chain of thought completely.
It
I should
depends
have
on the
finished.
entrepreneur, right? We are betting
Yeah,
on
it
the
depends on
entrepreneur.
the entrepreneur entirely. But we also started in 2020, 2022, January
Yes.
2022 is when we launched the platform. And it wasn't the best time to start any business because that's when the nuclear funding freeze kind of came in. And we all know what happened after that. It has been crazy, and the last 2 years have all been about conservation and continuing to hone into your skill set. How do you
Mm-hmm.
make it better? How do you keep taking it to the next level?
And how do you keep the lights on?
How do you keep the lights on? And I can tell you that it has been a very tough journey. But the I have no magic words on what and how fundraise should be done. What I can say is that there are people around you who've done it before, and you have to talk to them, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
continue to talk to them. I remember, we raised our seed round, and then we did a small convertible round, wherein I put in some of my capital as well. And a very dear friend and advisor to the company asked me that, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And I remember saying that I know this business is great. I know this business is great. I just know that the timing is off right now,
Yes.
and I invested my own money in it.
Mm.
And when we hit the road to start raising capital, I the leads came from the most unexpected places. I think you and I had a conversation at the clubhouse over breakfast, and you were telling me about your journey in raising capital. I was telling you that I'm going headed to Korea in the next week, and I want to go meet some of the investors there because that was already shaping up to be a very strong part for our business. And you said, "Oh, here, take Takli's number because Takli is someone you've raised capital from in the past." Um, it literally set the ball rolling. I couldn't reach out to Takli through that, but I knew who Takli was. And there were multiple other people who kind of got in the name and got into the game and continued with the introduction story, right? And today we have some amazing investors. We have the Duyun, two private equity groups, JB Invest and Duyun, all brought together by TKN Advisors. We have Mixi Global Investments. Mixi is a large gaming company out of
Mm.
Japan, and
Japan.
they already have investments in the beauty space. So they are introducing us to a lot of Japanese brands. Our Korean investors are introducing us to Korean brands. And Kalaari has continued to be, shout out to Kiran. He has continued to be a very, very strong champion for us.
Mm.
And just gratitude for the entire story. So I don't know if this is really helpful to everybody. I think the only piece of advice that has always worked for me is keep working, keep
Mm.
talking to people. And please don't be ashamed of asking for introductions. There are I in my head, I always think, and I say this to my co-founders, that I think of myself as this 24-year-old IT boy when I go out to raise capital. You want me to come to one corner of Noida, I'll come to one corner of Noida. I have no ego regarding that. I know I have a good story to tell. Give me a platform to tell that story and I will do it. And I think that
Absolutely, right? I think it's,
for
look,
everybody.
again, all of us, and especially you, it's a little bit of serendipity. Who do you meet? When do you meet? Like that one kind of penny has to drop somewhere, and that gets the ball rolling. um, at some point, I mean, I don't know if I've told you, I mean, I'll tell you separately how literally, I think someone said, go meet Tuck in a coffee shop. And I was in Korea the next day and we raised $3 million in a week, right? So it just happens, right? So you never know where that little nugget of, I mean, say the Lakshmi sits on your tongue once a day. You never know when
Yeah,
that's going to happen, right?
yeah.
So that, and then the other thing is just being relentless about it, right? As you
Yes.
said, turn up anywhere, anytime. And I think all of us don't really hear the word no,
Yeah.
right? I think that's a great superpower that we have. So no matter what you might say, I always hear it as yes, or it's a
Yes.
maybe, or why don't we try it that way? And I know you are exactly the same. Before kind of we get to the, I think we're running out of time, but I think we're enjoying this. I think we can carry on for a little bit longer. Before we get to kind of general kind of founder advice, etc., and especially female founder advice, Radhika, just for again for the benefit of the audience here, what was your pitch like, and what were the numbers that you actually raised this on? If you're happy to kind of talk about that.
So, we launched in January 22. January 22. We ended fiscal year 23 with about 10 crores of operating revenue, which further translates into a GMV of about 16 to 17 crores. So it was a slow, steady growth. Over the next year, we continue to cut down our burn and doubled those numbers. So FY24 is not out as yet, but our operating revenue is north of 20 crores, and our GMV is as well north of 32 crores.
And your bottom line is very healthy, right? Like you've done
Very
this
healthy,
time in a
very
very
healthy.
efficient fashion.
Yes, I think that's been the biggest learning, that you can do it with a very, very, very tight-fisted approach, and I think that's also something that I just learned at ShopClues as well. We were very frugal throughout our journey there, and I know, I'm not embarrassed to have an office in the basement of a house if that is needed, and
Yes,
I'm okay with that. That, I think, that kind of defines the whole. It is a startup, and we are building. I would rather have
absolutely.
spend money on uh, getting more and more brands into the country than having a fancier office,
And
and
in terms of
that's.
your customer base, how many customers, how many kind of folks on platform, like
Yeah.
what numbers are we looking at now?
So we have a community of about 2.5 million,
Hmm.
and our goal is to get to about a 10 million number by the end of March 24. March 25, and that's where we want to be. And out of the 2.5 million, about 300,000 people have purchased from us.
Nice. And how do you look at the kind of the other platforms out there vis-a-vis you?
Partners, I think partners, distribution channels, partners for us. Everybody's expanding the pie, and our goal is to take a larger share of the pie, and
Mhm.
whether that is directly as a B2C platform or through the kind box business.
And I'm sure, like you asked this question relentlessly, maybe asked or not asked, or maybe it was the unsaid question in the room. What is your right to exist? Like, why Kind Life? Why should another e-commerce platform exist when there's so many out there already?
I think very different audience that we are targeting, very different discovery that is happening on the platform, and supply differentiation. I
Mm.
think that has been the evolution of the business, right? We started off with doing D2C brands, we started off with doing FMCG brands, we started off with doing traditional Indian brands and international brands. But I think international brands, global brands, has been a very big differentiating factor
Mm.
for us. And today in the morning we had a long conversation with French indie brands that want to
Mm.
enter the country, and they don't necessarily want to go just with the larger platforms, because they realize that going with somebody like Nika or Atira kind of locks them out from working with other platforms. And
Yes, and it's
I
expensive to
think
be with those platforms
it's
now.
expensive, and that's a big differentiating factor that we have, that we become the brand in the country. We will take
Hmm.
you to the right channel where your products will sell. And
And I think that underdog approach is a good one, right? Because
also,
it
PG,
just
I think,
gives you.
just look at the category, right? It's one of the fastest growing categories, not just in India, but worldwide.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. It is,
We love beauty, Radhika. We both of us love beauty.
yeah,
So
that's it. So it works.
absolutely. So it works. So listen, I think it's been fascinating. And every time I talk to you, I think I leave kind of the space even more inspired than I could possibly be. Let's just come to this whole female founder question, right? I mean, all of us have been asked about this ad nauseum, umpteen times. Every time kind of the Women's Day comes around, I think one whole month goes by and we keep kind of parroting the same things. How do you look at the journey of a female entrepreneur, and we know it's different, so let's just kind of accept that. But how do you look at it, and functionally, what do you think needs to change?
Um, I think the biggest problem is that there are not enough of us.
Mm,
Now that's changing. Please, also, just because I've been here for a bit, I see it change. Now,
mm,
I remember the first few years, it was me and Upasana Taku at nearly every event. We were the token Indian girls, Indian female entrepreneurs at most
yeah.
of these events. And then the pool started expanding, and there are many of us. I think
Mm,
what has helped me tremendously, and I think it's been a game changer for a lot of women entrepreneurs, has been other women entrepreneurs pushing them up, supporting them, talking to them, and talking about them in forums where they are not present.
mm,
I mean, till date, there are conversations about just manuals happening. And for the
yes.
uninitiated, manuals are panels where there are only men because the panel organizers could not find enough women founders,
Yeah.
which is a sack full of dash shit. So it really is. There are many of us. We are loud. We are present everywhere. You just have to open your eyes and look. I think that is
Absolutely.
it. And you're right. The journey is different. You have to maybe be more relentless. I mean,
Mm,
entrepreneurship in itself is an addiction. It is something that just requires incessant work. It should be We should be okay with being disliked, and we should be okay with asking favors when needed. And a lot of
absolutely.
these things do not come naturally for us. And
And
I
also, I
don't
think
think,
just to add to that is also this being, I don't want to use the word, I mean, shameless is one word, but being just loud in your ambition, right? Like now that I'm sitting on the other side of the table and I see so many women come in and pitch, I sort of
yeah,
shake them up and say, just make a story bigger. Like
yeah,
you're hypothetically speaking to the future. Why are you saying you'll be here in 3 years' time? Why don't you just make that here times three already, right? It's a
I
hypothetical right now.
cannot agree with you. Cannot agree with you. I heard,
And when I hear the same pitch delivered by the men who come into pitch, I mean, and I'm just looking things like they don't have no compunction in just kind of pulling a number and saying, "Hey, we're going to do that." And it's
yes,
said,
absolutely.
some of them say it with such finesse that you believe them and they get the money. I
Yeah,
just wish that more women would develop that muscle to shamelessly just say, "Hey, I'm going to build 1,000 crore business in the next X years, or 3 years, 4 years, and this is exactly how I'm going to do it." And that's what I think we as early stage investors, well, I'm saying, I mean, I'm barely calling myself an investor now, but that's what you're looking for, because you want someone to have that fire. And I think women have it less.
so I said it at one of the interviews with about that I want to build out a unicorn again, and I cannot tell you the amount of flack I got for that. Uh,
Really?
you know,
If
it's just
anyone can do it, it's going to be you, right? Like
the
you've done it
trolling
once.
the trolling is incessant, right? It's incessant, and there are times when I just have to shut off certain social media channels because I feel क्या फर्क पड़ता
I
है.
think
You
I
were
think it's
not
just
there for me
noise.
for my victories, and you will not be there for my failures. So I'm good. So it
100%.
really is getting your blinders or blinkers, whichever part of the world you're in, on and building and being loud about it.
Yes.
Talking about it, and
And I
make
think that's
sure
exactly
that
why
your
CXXO,
group
right?
talks about it as well. Yes, absolutely. I don't know if I think you and I were together when we heard a pitch from a very an amazing female entrepreneur who was talking about what she's building, and she says in
Mm,
year 4 she will do 6 crores of revenue.
yes.
I was it's scandalous. It is like you have the best, literally icy per se, sitting
Mm,
in front of you,
mm.
and people who
You
can
say
write
six
a good
crores.
check, and you say 6 crores.
And
It's just hard.
and the unsaid, yesterday we were having this converse, the Kalaari mixer. It was happening in Bangalore, and I literally met this whole generation of folks I had pitched to. Because even like you, like I pretty much pitched to anyone, pretty much everyone in India in the room for sure. And now you're kind of meeting them on a different footing, and it's kind of a really weird moment for me to kind of meet everyone again, right? Because we fundraised frantically for so many years as well. And now they're like, oh, what's next, what you're going to do, all of that, but the energy is different, right? So I think the second time round thing really works. And I think as women, we just need to kind of really be there. Like, I had the pleasure of sitting through this one pitch the other day, and there was a female founder, and she was on fire. I felt so proud. I felt like a mother in the room. I'm like, she's doing like so well, right? And
Yay.
made that tribe grow. So, Radhika, we have a few more minutes, and this section is called that one thing, right?
Ah, okay.
So, that one piece of advice you wish you were given when you were starting out.
It's going to be tough, but stick to it.
And that one
It
piece
is
of
going to be
advice you
tough.
want to give folks starting out now.
Go ahead. One piece of advice that I want to give people who are starting off now.
Yeah.
This is my mantra: just show up through the tough times and the good times. Show up, show up, show up.
That one thing you wish investors knew and they don't.
Don't talk to women entrepreneurs about their work-life balance, who's going to look after their children when they are raising money, because the fact that they are in front of you means that they've already figured out nearly every other aspect of their life, and they're possibly the best investment you can make.
1,000%. That one weird thing that you heard as when you were fundraising or as an entrepreneur that you were really shocked about.
Multiple times. I think the first time I went out fundraising, I was pregnant with Arjit, and it was like, how are you going to be able to do it? You are going to have a baby now, and all the other times in between, I had young kids in school. How are you doing it? The kids are so young. And then finally, when I started raising money, raising for Kind Life, I have my older one is away in college in the US, and it was like, are you going to move to the US because your son has moved to the US? So I realized it never ends, never. So
And you
it
can't
just
win
is.
as well.
Yeah.
You
Sorry.
can't win that. And you can't win
You
it,
can't.
right?
You can't
Whatever
win.
you said, there's no answer to that. That one thing that is true about female entrepreneurs that we don't talk about.
The grit. The grit. I think women have to work 10x harder, as hard, to be able to get half the reward as men do. We don't want to talk about it. A lot of women entrepreneurs will say entrepreneurship is entrepreneurship. Great. But don't normalize your experience for all the women around, because it's not true.
Absolutely.
It
And
might
see,
have been
and
right
also
for
it's
you.
uneven, right?
Yeah, it is and it is not a level playing field, and it might work for some of us who are really privileged, but it doesn't mean that everybody else has it normal as well.
Absolutely. And last thing, Radhika, that one thing that we haven't spoken about and that you'd like to say.
So I do want to shout out to my core uh, my co-founders and my core brainstorming team that I have. There are many of you, PG, literally. There is, of course, amazing co-founders, people have known for a very long time, Vidit and Mansa. Thank you for everything that you guys have done and stuck by me through all of this. Another shout out for Shweta Jain, who was my hostel roommate, and PG, you know her very well as well. I call her, we have a 5 a.m. group. So when we are at airports at 5 a.m. in the morning, which I'm guessing you probably were,
I think you should add me to that, by the way.
yeah, it literally is, you pick up the phone and call, and even if that's the other person sleeping, they'll pick up the phone. They'll be like, what are we doing here at 5 a.m. in the morning? And then you hear a bit of boosting and you get going on your way. But I think, please look at people around you. They're there to support you. The stories about women bringing other women down, for me, that's not true. And I'm very, very grateful for that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Radhika. As you always, I think I was looking forward to this all week because I knew that we'd have a fantastic conversation like we always do. Thank you so much. And we
Thank
wish you all the
you.
best. Cannot
Thank
wait to see where Kind Life goes next. And I'm sure it's going to go to amazing places. Congratulations to you again and to your team. And yeah, we are at CXXO and Kalaari are super excited to be the first investor your second mission, and may it be even larger and bigger than the first time round, and may this time it actually get to a really, really, really happy conclusion.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. We've got to land this plane, and but first we've got to take it up to 30,000 or 37, 38,000 feet, and we're just about taking off, and we'll build. We are builders. That is
Wish
it.
you all the best, Radhika. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.